You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Inside Trump's schemes to corrupt the midterms, based on an article by Alex Henderson, Trump is turning the federal government into a midterm shield, power, not confusion. The New York Times reports that Trump is using federal agencies' executive power and pressure on state and local officials to tilt the 2026 midterms toward Republicans. The through line is plain: when the president expects losses, he does not accept political accountability. He looks for administrative leverage, legal sabotage, and procedural dirty tricks to keep power from being translated into votes. The machinery of sabotage. The decision makers here are Trump and the officials he has installed. The article names a roster of election deniers and loyalists across DOJ, Defense, and DHS, and it describes a coordinated set of tactics: nationalizing elections, tightening voting rules, pushing mid-decade redistricting, cutting election security, attacking confidence in prior results, and punishing people who resisted election denialism. That is not random case. It is a governing strategy. The state is being used to shape the electorate, the rules, and the aftermath. Voting rights were the first target. One detail matters, especially after Trump took office. The Justice Department dropped or halted all of its open voting rights lawsuits from the Biden era, including a case in Georgia. That is not bureaucratic drift. That is the deliberate removal of one of the federal government's few remaining civil rights guardrails. The Times also reports that the voting rights arm of DOJ has been gutted from about 30 lawyers to the single digits. When you shrink the enforcement arm and then call the resulting field competitive, you are laundering repression as normal politics. The real goal is electoral pre-commitment. Trump blocked executive orders matter less than the broader pattern. If courts stop one channel, the administration moves to another. If open rules cannot be rewritten fast enough, the regime starves enforcement, blesses gerrymanders, and seeds doubt about outcomes in advance. The point is not just to win a particular election. It is to make Republican losses harder to certify, harder to trust, and easier to contest. That is why the story should not be read as a grab bag of electioneer tactics. It is an anti-accountability project. Democrats cannot treat this like a normal campaign cycle. The article begins with Democratic strategists feeling cautiously optimistic. That optimism is understandable, but it is not enough. A weak president does not mean a harmless one. A falling approval rating does not neutralize an administration that is actively rewriting the terrain on which votes are cast and counted. If Democrats respond only with messaging discipline and turnout rhetoric, they will be answering a structural attack with a campaign memo. The larger pattern is the conversion of government into a partisan defense system that enforcement, reward loyalists, burden voters, and contaminate the legitimacy of any result you might lose. The pattern. This is how authoritarian politics advances in a constitutional system that still has some friction left in it, not by announcing a suspension of elections, but by placing loyalists inside the machinery, draining enforcement, and making democratic outcomes look pre-suspect. The harm is not confusion. The harm is design. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Norman. Thanks for listening.